my God, this
Who
editing.
is
I was
this?
like, how is he
Who
doing
is this guy? Who is
Yeah.
Well, like the thing I was going to compliment you, I went ahead and hit live. So we're actually live on Ginger Game Radio.
Hello.
The thing I was going to compliment you on is like I love y'all's like character interactions, and when you're talking, you light up and move. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how he does it, but I'm like, I love it. Like I
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
adore it. It's so Larry. It's what it is.
Yeah, it was actually one of the raid members. She drew it, and she just like did it. Like one day, she was just like, "Here's all this art of," and it's like 16 pictures of all of us, right? I'm like, "What is this for?" And she goes, "This is a Discord overlay thing." I'm like,
Nice.
"Ooh!" So I tried it out. I'm like, "I love this. This is great."
Beyond that though, it's it kind of makes me feel like I'm like listening to you guys in a movie theater.
Yeah,
It gives that kind of, I don't know like why, but it's like, all right, yeah,
Mhm.
we're in a movie theater together. This is great.
yeah, it does
This is
do that.
great. The one thing this doesn't do. So one of the things this can do, so I can be like, all right, we're moving on to topic 1. I can just fly that up on the screen, and I can
Mhm.
highlight comments from people in chat. I can't link. I wish I could link
Oh.
it to the Twitch chat as well, and thus, but I can't. So it's like I gotta have to be like, guys, lurk on both. Lurk
Okay.
on both. And so, like as I've been building out this channel. All right, here's Chris. Banana, na na na
Hello,
na.
Chris.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I saw you succeed at picking the best of a remaining option. You
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I studied up for
very
that.
good. Let me you studied.
Piss the best of the remaining option. I don't get it. Sorry.
Oh, this was a Gillionaire.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
is a Gillionaire. Yeah.
The thingamabobber they did.
I fell asleep. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, you're good, dude. It was at like
Oh.
4 a.m. my time. So
I was sitting here. I was getting around that 2 o'clock. I was like, I'm actually physically hurting.
yeah.
It's worth a watch when you
Yeah.
get some downtime, and it's good to know that like if you ever get a flat tire, don't call Ethis. He's not going to answer.
I don't know if they ever explained that. But I think they like played it off. I don't know if they ever actually said why. It was because he was the one that made that question.
Mhm.
So they couldn't they couldn't actually ask him for the answer because he made it. So that's why
I
and they put it
assumed
off
that
like
Anonymous wrote all of. Oh, and since it turned back over, it might have been. I assumed Anonymous wrote all those and Ethis wrote all those, but it makes sense then. You would be really unfair if they had to give the question to their own.
Right.
So,
yeah. So they had Ethis made one and Anonymous made one, and the others were made by the community team.
Oh,
Yeah. And both of the ones that Ethis and Moose
they
made
should have had
were
like a
stumped us.
primal introduction transition where like he got squished by Ifrit or something. Like he can't answer this question. Like I don't know.
Yeah, he goes to try to answer it, and then they just cut him off. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
And so for
Such
anybody hanging out
devastation.
in Twitch, we hope that you continue to hang out over there on Twitch. But if you guys would like to have like a question or a comment highlight in stream, I put a link into the GGR post. So that way you can see like I'm doing it right here. I could bring up your comment, and we'll either respond to it or it'll just kind of tie into the overall theme of whatever we're talking about here on the podcast. So just note that is the plan. We've got 3 big topics, but this is Larry, we are conversational, and it's like, yeah, we have a direction, and if we go in that direction, great. We could end up in the in the weeds. So that's going to be the goal of it. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you guys are okay with each segment being brought to you by the cancer stream that I'm going to be doing with Larry, not with Larry. Sorry, Larry, you didn't know you were going to be there with Llama on Saturday.
So yes, as we transition, because we cut these up on clips for Work to Game, they'll might be kind of a little transitional period that we kind of toss that into. So, all right, cool. Let's go here. All right, I am recording.
We're not giving cancer. We're supporting the fight against.
Right. Are we pro cancer? Or are we anti cancer?
You likely won't get cancer from watching that stream.
That'd be ideal.
I'd hope not. Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. For everybody hanging out on either of these platforms, thank you guys. We'll be doing this, and we'll hopefully have a fun show. So, all right, cool. What episode? 77. Cool. I was like, hello and welcome to the Casually Hardcore Podcast. My name is Brian, and joining me is my co-host, the Mo-host. It's Chris, and special guest today. You guys know him, you love him. If you go follow him, be sure to click on his links in the description of this podcast. We got Larry Czar coming back on the show. Larry, it's been a long time since you and I've had the chance to collab, and
Yeah.
in said time, we've got Endwalker, we've got Summoner rumors, we've got so much juicy stuff to talk about today. But before we dive into this show, why don't you just like introduce yourself for anybody who might not know who you are, and let's just get into it. So, welcome back, Larry.
Hi, well, glad to be here. I'm Larry. I make videos, particularly dumb videos on YouTube. I'm also work on a game on the side, and I'm play lots of Final Fantasy 14 when I can. That's what I do.
And I'm very, as a programmer myself, I'm very curious as to that. So actually, I have that as kind of our third topic. So our first topic, we're going to focus in on Endwalker. Second topic, we're going to probably dive a little bit into Summoner Scholar. We both share a connection, at least with Summoner in that regards. And then finally, I want to talk about like how gaming has impacted, or development of programming gaming has it changed your view of 14? Has it changed your view of video games in general? And just kind of that as a complete mindset. But let's go ahead and dive into our first subject. Chris, I'm going to kind of toss to you because it's really important as a part of these clips. What do we have coming up on the stream this special weekend?
I knocked over my Heidelin salt shaker. So the on Saturday the 22nd at 8 p.m. CST, I am going to be going into Diamond EX and some portion of 9 through 12 Savage for the first time. Many of you know that like I don't really have that storied of a history with Savage and Extreme in 14, and I've had my reasons for not having done them this tier, but I was asked to come in and be one of the new people that could be carried through by veterans for raising money for cancer, coming off the Soken announcement. Welcome back, Soken. There's been a FFXIV Beats Cancer movement that's taken place. Faith Temperance Discord has organized a lot of this. And so Lama Todd has asked me to be somebody that he can carry through this stuff. And hopefully we can raise a little money along the way. So I'm going to be live 8 p.m. There'll be links in the chat and stuff. If you want to support it through that, feel free to come hang out.
All right. So we've got that's a big charity. So also really important, especially after that announcement. Larry, a question to you, like how did you take that news? Because I didn't hear about it until the next day.
The Spoken thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I woke up to it. So that was a really heavy-hearted thing to wake up to. So all I heard first was cancer, and then I was like, oh no. So then I read it. I'm like, oh, okay. At least it's in remission. So at least the outlook is good. And then what I ended up doing was watching the portion of the live stream, like the ending part there. And I watched that, and that was just such a hard thing to watch that I was crying the whole way through like a little baby. And just I have so much respect for him, and really, I mean, describing like what he went through, like while being in the hospital and working on the songs, and saying like how he worked on To the Edge while in the hospital, it gave that song like a whole new meaning. Like if you go and look at the lyrics now, it's like, oh my god, this is just probably my favorite song now in the whole game because of that. And it was already really good to me, but now it's definitely up there. And I'm just really glad that the outlook is looking good, and hopefully it continues to be that way.
The thing that moved me the most, I mean, like obviously that, like what a nightmarish thing to be happening during COVID, isolation. Nobody can really come visit you. Like there's there's all these other and thens that it's hard to kind of even factor or compartmentalize just how nightmarish that must have been. But then you also have Yoshi P breaking down, just like that reminded me also of Yoshi P's 2.0 speech in ways like different different connection and connotation, but just like the team, it just, for me, it reaffirmed just how loving and connected this team is working together for us, the players, but how like we feed them and they feed us. And it's just kind of this relationship we have, and how this past year has been, a struggle for everybody, in that regard. So I'm really happy I watched that privately. I just kind of has that moment because I was like, but it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch and difficult. But I'm gonna take that because it's important. We kind of talk about the event coming up this Saturday and transition us to ideally something a little bit more exciting that we're all looking forward to. Larry, the expansion has been announced. We've got Endwalker, we've got the date, we've got the trailer, and honestly, we got the full trailer. I want to know your thoughts, man. Like I watched your reaction because your reaction is just priceless. Like we hit Zeppela, we hit you, we did Night Sky Prince. We just went around the horn. It was like
I do that too.
It was just like, what do they see? Because like, oh my gosh, and like, how? Just walk me through like what you're feeling. Like, especially now it's been a few days. Like, where do you fall with your expansion hype, and what are your plans then as a raider, kind of transitioning that to go through this next 6 months before we even see a new raid introduced?
Oh yeah, that's true. Ooh.
Big questions here.
Yeah, right. That's very true, actually. So I mean, in terms of hype, I don't think there's really ever gonna. This is hard to say, but I don't know if there's ever gonna be another expansion that's this hype again, because it's hard to beat a story that's been building up for 10 years, right? And this is the culmination of all of that. Like, this is our Avengers Endgame, right? Like, this is the end of a 10-year long story. So story-wise, it's super, super hype. And it's going to be hard to beat that. So I would say I'm about the same hype level-wise as I was for Shadowbringers, and that was already like peak level for me. So I'm a very excitable person. So I'll probably be just as excited for the next expansions too, but this one in particular, it's pretty freaking awesome. I mean, like, going through the trailer, like the beginning part, it's like, okay, yeah, here we go. It's the same kind of thing. Wait a minute, I could hear the lyrics, right? It's like, oh wait, now I actually know what they are, instead of Soken just going right? He's just muffled singing. Yeah, and then the tease for the Reaper reveal, like they're gonna show the weapon and then they zoom out and then they're like, psych, here's Thancred.
That was
Brian was like 3 seconds ahead of me on the feed, and he goes Reaper, and I thought, I was waiting for it, and then it panned. I was like, you didn't see Reaper.
I did too. I did too. You can see it on his throne, and it's so like when it comes up here naturally. If you look on the bottom left, you actually see the scythe now, where the first time you didn't. Like, it's like, so I was like, they actually either hid that from the first one on purpose, and people were still speculating and drawing and shaping. But it's like, I was like, oh my gosh, I see it, and I watched everybody's, and nobody else made that connection, and I was like, all right, but then I missed the dragon. So like when we have obviously Estinian with the dragon, I was like, from my mind, I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily look like Tiamat, but I'm like, I'm not connecting another First Brood, because we've already seen from a hype trailer before that they messed up the dragons back in Heavensward. It wasn't. They used
Hraesvelgr everywhere, right?
Yeah, instead of Nidhogg.
Right, exactly.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
We all have a drawer of dragons. We just reach in. You grab it. We've all worn socks that don't match.
Right. I mean, when it first showed it, I was like, immediately, I was like, oh, he's on Tiamat. And then it showed the teeth and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's not Tiamat. Who is it? And he says the name. He says it's Vritra, but I didn't hear it because we're all screaming. So I didn't hear him.
There was almost something more special about getting to go watch people's reactions. Because had we been there, at least among like the NA people, at least among like creators, those were all pretty well documented, right? Because we all were hitting record, and like you were sitting behind me at my first fan fest. So like I got to hear you laugh. That's not nearly as special as like getting to go back and hear your reaction independent of mine, and getting to go back and watching like Zeppela like lose it, which she would have been at EU. So maybe I would have gotten to see that. But what are the odds they like zoomed in on her face? There was something really special about that kind of made up for at FanFest. You're in the room, and there's a good chance that people, a few rows back are complete strangers you'll never interact with, and you get to hear them cheer. And so that was taken away. And so the reactions being posted was like the next best thing.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And you like, it's kind of the same thing with the media tour with the job action reveal, right? Like that, the energy in that room was amazing. And it's like you can't compete with that, really. Like,
we were all fine. Larry was losing it.
I remember when
I remember hearing shouting. Yeah,
there was a lot of shouting, but I remember I think something with Gunbreaker happened, and Mary right next to me, he just goes, "Get the out of here!" I'm like,
when they announced the Mac support going to 64-bit, and Chris goes, "Yeah!" It was like it goes
the other one.
And I look around and afterwards, somebody from Yoshi P's team go over and goes, because he whispered something, and they go, he just wanted to say thank you personally because that was a lot of work, and he didn't think a single person in the community would be thankful. So like I was like, we got one guy that's excited.
Oh, that's great. It's just like how Work to Game got started. It's like, oh, you need a guide, Larry? Okay, hey Larry, here's how you set up this on the controller. Oh, other people apparently found value in that. Like, oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I'm the only Mac player that's ever existed.
Everybody else is just like, okay, that's nice. And then the Paladin with the Paladin gap closer, like all it does is just zoom in on Paladin, and everybody's kind of quiet. Immediately does the gap closer, and everybody in the room just starts screaming. It's something so simple, but everybody was just screaming.
We wanted it for a long time. We wanted that gap closer because it was, especially in Stormblood, it was the only tank, because we didn't have Gunbreaker then either. But it was like, and here's your tank that you're just literally going to be running up to him. You're always running, can't do nothing about it. And I was hopeful. I'm happy they got it, but I was hoping that there would be something where they toss their shield and kind of teleport to it, like obviously from 15. But I probably would have been a little bit.
I wanted them to ride it like a sled, like toss it down like a surfboard, and just like
like you do in Zelda. Yeah.
So beyond, obviously, like the fact is that we've got, we'll come back to the kind of the summer gap, but what do you think about Reaper? Like, were you in the pro Reaper camp? Because we didn't get a collab before this, but I know there was a lot of people most people I talked to were pro Reaper, but there was an offset of Templar or Temple Knight, and that like people had like different theories. There is a persistent, one of the things the Geomancer crew is still out there somewhere, like trying to find any thread that job's coming, but where do you fall with Reaper?
So I had, before any of this stuff came out, I had made like a joke, like predictions video for 6.0, and I was like, it's gonna be Necromancer. Like this was before he even showed like the Scythe stuff, right? Like before that first media stuff that we got, right? I was like, it's gonna be Necromancer, like just as a complete joke, as in something I never thought we would ever possibly remotely even get. And then it was a Scythe, like he revealed that it was gonna be a Scythe, and I'm like,
wait,
oh, it could actually be Necromancer now. So I was like, I was definitely on the boat of it being a Scythe, right? Like 100% he uses a Scythe based off of his t-shirts. And maybe that was too easy, but it ended up being right. And actually it ended up being right even by the fact that his t-shirts were Reapers. So even more so, right? But I was definitely on the side of it being either Necromancer or Reaper. And I'm glad it went with Reaper. I really like that name instead of Necromancer. So it's because it's kind of that same kind of aesthetic-ish, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like if they would have to, like, you could think of it in a way with Necromancer, because they reveal right here, you've got the avatar they're calling it. It's like, man, like, is it? When they showed this, I was like, is it a Necromancer? Because they reveal Reaper at the end, like they're going to show you some of the gameplay, and he showed you the Scythe, and it's like, wait a minute, like I was thinking more like. But then it's semi-pet, it's not real pet, class, not real pet job. It has
the perfect way to be a pet. Really, it's the perfect way to do it in this game.
In this game.
Oh man,
and it's so cool, the visual aspects of the slashes. So the Reaper's got that kind of teal green, and then your avatar's got the red, and then you absorb your avatar, and then all of a sudden you have this like blood just curdling like slashes. It just looks so powerful.
It is too cool. It's too cool. It's like unfair to every other job in the game because the aesthetic on it is too good. So it's going to have an absurd amount of people playing it, especially when it comes out, of course. But even later, I think it's going to end up being like one of the most played jobs by far. And I think this is also going to be the job that is going to make people even want to just play the game, right? I mean, super edgy. You just got to have a super duper crazy edgy job, and that's the one that's going to get people to play the game.
One of the things that I'm seeing just in stats alone from guides and things like that is that, if nothing else, the Endwalker trailer and all that has served as a driving factor for people to either come back to the game or consider it for the first time. And Reaper alone, I would credit a lot of that too. I think Reaper is an aesthetic that people want to go and check out. It looks.
Let's just put it in every thumbnail between now and Endwalker.
It's
every single one is just Reapers. How to play Scholar, Reaper. Yeah. Every thumbnail will be Reaper.
Reapers all the way down. Absolutely.
Not even joking that you're probably onto something there. So
what's your Final Fantasy 14 tier list? Reaper.
Yeah. All the way at the top.
All the way at the, what about Sage? It's now a Reaper. Oh man, that'd be so crazy.
The fact that also that aesthetic and the fact that it uses Dragoon gear, which historically has usually been top tier glamour wise as well. Dragoon always has really good glamour sets going on, so it's just top tier in all aspects, really. And yeah, like the animations look freaking like super smooth and fluid. It's just everything about it is just really cool looking. I'm just wondering about, and I don't think they necessarily think about meta in the way that like a lot of like raiders and stuff like endgame people do. They don't really think of it in that way. They think of it more of like how it fits in to be able to, for everybody to play, right? Like for it to do all kind of content. So they have to think of it in a certain degree. So I'm just wondering where it's going to fit in terms of like the DPS scale of like, I'm thinking it'll be kind of similar to Dragoon DPS range. Like it can't be top DPS because that's what Samurai already does, right? We already have that.
Being that it shares Dragoon gear, though, it should have a little bit higher level of survivability, I would assume. Dragoon gear is a little bit more plated base, so it has a little bit more, even though we laugh about floor tanks, at the end of the day, like it should have a little increased survivability. The question then comes into is that, does it have any utility whatsoever or not?
Right.
Dragoon has the ability to buff the party. Like, is that sacrificed for more just personal damage with the Reaper themselves? Or are they just like, sorry guys, I'm here to just like shred things and I don't know, eat some smoked chicken. But
yeah, like aesthetically, you would think it would be like it looks like what a selfish DPS looks like to me. But if the damage is lower than Samurai, then it must have some kind of utility. Like it must do something to help. So it's like, okay, what kind of utility would they give it that would aesthetically fit?
What about a raise?
And yeah, that was my first idea. I was like, what about a raise, but it does something different? Like, what if it's like, what if you have like a re-raise, like you give it to somebody and it has a buff on there and it lasts like 30 seconds. And if you die within those 30 seconds, you get raised. What if it's something like
Living
that?
Dead that can't be cast on itself.
It's just, you raise somebody with Living Dead on them, right? Like
that's your problem now. I can't fix this.
You put a long cooldown on that, and then that's still I almost like, how do you not then have that as a must in all progression groups? Like I don't know. I don't know if it would be a farm job, but it's like that would be a must job to have as a part of that, because you could be like, oh no, healer got it on you, you're back.
Exactly.
Because that's and then, oh man, like honestly though, I think I would love to see something like that, especially if they ever do bring in hard 4-man progression dungeon system or something like that, because it's like, then you would say, yep, you got somebody to get your healer back up so you guys can keep going. But man,
right.
Interviews implied that if we're getting hard 4-man, it's going to be an extension of the deep dungeon. It's not going to be modified dungeons.
Yeah.
Right. My hope for any kind of deep dungeon, though, in that regards, not modifying the dungeons, is just pull from the aesthetic of the dungeon itself. Like, it's like, hey, we're going to pull from this art palette, and all of a sudden you're running, like this boss friend or whatever, just like as a floor than anything else. And that's just where I'm like, I like the visual change. I like that's one of the things I love about Deep Dungeon Heaven on High. Like, yes, there's square boxes. Okay, cool. Visually, there's that, like, you get deeper and it brings in new music and it does different things. So it is continually serving that like that flavor of the month, the week. It's just like, yeah, okay. And then if they could find a reason for me to kind of keep going back into it, which I'm forcing myself back into it and I'm having a blast, but yeah, just put something out there just to keep going. We spent enough time on that. Like, a whole podcast could be dedicated to
just Reaper.
Reaper and mid-core content.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the summer before we move into our second topic, though, because we get the date, November 23rd. Have you canceled Thanksgiving with your family? Like,
yeah, it's like, okay, Mom, I can't go eat Thanksgiving with you unless I've cleared the story. But no, I mean, we usually do end up doing the story in like 2 or 3 days ish, and that's playing all day. So for the people that don't get the ability to play all day, then you're probably going to finish probably about where Thanksgiving is if you play about like 4 or 5 hours a day. So that's cutting it a little close. But yeah, I ended up taking off for that. So it's like, ooh, I got like a good week and a half just to play it. So that's exciting. It does beg the question of what's going to end up having with raids, because it's like 2 to 4 weeks. Like 2 weeks after usually is normal mode, and then 2 weeks after that is savage. And if that's what they end up doing, it's the week of Christmas.
It's Christmas, baby.
So
if you don't do that, it's New Year's. So like, there's no way to win it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
WoW released their expansion right up against Thanksgiving last year, and it is just a mess. And it made that mess. So, but then they decided not to release another patch ever again, and that solved it. We have a lot of events this summer. How do you feel about like the 15 event coming back, and we'll have the Rising? I didn't see them mention the Halloween event, so they named everything that's going to happen. So there just won't be one, or we just never doing those again, because we didn't get one last time, right?
We didn't get one last time.
We didn't. I forgot about that.
Got canceled for COVID, and then we just canceled this one for canceling.
Yeah.
Well, they could probably finish it, right? Because I would assume that we'll still
Reaper seems appropriate.
Just release Reaper for Halloween. Yeah. Oh my god, that would be amazing. But no,
you just be Reaper for like an hour, and then you have to give it back up. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, they just like release like a beta version that you could just like download a beta client and be able to just test out Reaper. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay without the Halloween. I usually really like the Halloween events though, so that's kind of sad. Rising is usually one of my favorites as well. They usually end up doing like really cool, clever things with the Rising event, so I'm excited for that. And the 15 event, I did it, so it doesn't matter to me. But
yeah, I saw them breaking it down by month, and then I was like, well, September's open. But I'm excited for everybody else. It's been one of the most requested to return events, because there were a lot of people coming in at the time, and they didn't know. So like, they were playing at the time, but they didn't know that they needed to go do a quest line real quick. And there's a lot of people who've come in since then, long-time returners and stuff. Is we run the risk of being an MMO that can have 2 good back-to-back expansions, which would be crazy. I don't think you're entitled to that sort of thing. And so like, that's just saying, it could be a lot worse than Shadowbringers and still be good. So
I think all of ours have been good.
Quite a bit of room.
I mean, if I had to pick like out of the expansions, maybe my weakest one is Stormblood, but overall, like, they've all been good, right? So
yeah, we haven't had a total dud. There's no
duds.
We haven't. Yeah,
I have come completely around on Stormblood with the introduction of Bozja. Because I felt that Stormblood was like, okay, all right, things are getting up, and then it's like, oh wait, we got to go to another dimension. Hold up, and it literally like paused that story, and then we come back, and it's like, okay, we handle that. All right, oh yeah, there's a war going on. Let's get back into it. And I go, that in and of itself, when you take Bozja and you sandwich it into the Stormblood expansion, I was like, this is great. Like, that's what I felt like it was always building up to. Where's the conflict? Where's the war? Where's the storm of blood? And we finally got it. And it's like, it's in Bozja. Bozja. And so that in and of itself, I thought was interesting. Do you have like a strategy and plan, especially as like, one of the things that's always interesting that people might not know, but we know, like, you're a hardcore raider, like you've done Ultimate, like that is something that's really important. And Ultimate being cut is obviously a kick in the shins, understandably, but at the same time, still like a bummer. How do you manage the summer? Like, what's the plan for raids? What's the plan for playing?
Right. So I used to be like way more hardcore raider than I was. I mean, I was never a world first raider or anything like that, because that's a whole other level, right? But I have raided everything that has existed in the game, except for I haven't done T, and I've done a little bit of Uwu. But I mean, I probably wasn't gonna really do any more ultimates. Like, I really just wanted to do Ukab because it was like reliving the Coil days. I was like, I miss Coil so much. It was like one of my favorite raid tiers ever, and that's why I ended up doing Ukab, because I wanted to relive it. Similarly, Thornton is one of my favorite primals ever. And so when they said that Thornton was going to be the new ultimate, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to do this one. This is just too good. So little disappointed that it's not coming out right now, but that's fine. It just gives me more time to wait for it. That's fine. I mean, but between now and when the expansion comes out, I mean, we're still raiding. We're still progging because we're casual raiders. We just do 1 day a week. And sometimes we go weeks where we don't really do much of it at all. So we're actually on the 3rd fight right now. So we've still got a while. We're still good to go on that. We still got some content to do there.
The lesson being, I guess, pace yourself, everybody. Like when that more drops, like, just enjoy it, but don't just life it.
I will do Relic for sure. I actually have to finish my current step. I'm on the previous Relic step. I'm on the one where I got to do 15 Delibrums.
I'm about to get there. I'm almost there.
I've done 5 so far, and it feels like a little bit of a slog. But I like Delibrum. I just don't necessarily like doing it 15 times in a row.
I think the most I've done it in 1 day is 6 or 7.
Oh my God. I do 2 and I'm like, I'm done. Sometimes I'm halfway through one of them and I'm done. So,
I've done things where we bet with Chad on whether or not I'm going to die at all, and then I play with one hand, or I play zoomed into first person, or I play casting my abilities out of the spell book. That one's real hard. And so you just got, and people are like, you're really just starting to screw with this. Doesn't this affect other people? It's like, I want 4 tanking relics. That's 60 Delibrum runs. If they wanted me to take all 60 seriously, it shouldn't have been 60. I'm gonna be just in here on some of these.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I think people overestimate other people's ability to play the game. I'm sure you giving yourself those handicaps, you ended up playing better than half of the other people in the raid. So I think
I did a whole run without dying once with one hand.
Yeah, so your
DPS was probably not great, but we're not allowed to have parsers.
Who's to say?
Yeah. Tell me how much DPS I did. I dare you.
So yeah,
tell it to me in game.
Whisper it to me. Whisper me.
Oh my goodness! All right,
that's a loaded question. And if anybody in party, after you're doing farming extreme primals or something, and somebody goes in party chat, they're like, "Hey, anybody, what was I doing last run? What was I parsing?" I just go you can't get me, Yoshi P. I know your game. You can't. Nope, not falling for it.
Not falling for it one bit. That's good. I think it's time we go ahead and move into our second topic. We'll be focusing here on Final Fantasy XIV's Summoner Scholar changes, what we want to see, what Larry wants to see, or, all speculation. We had a recent interview. But before we do that, guys, if you're watching this as a highlight, Chris has a special charity event going on this Saturday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Chris, why don't you tell people about it, and then we'll dive into this topic.
I'm going to be running my first time into Diamond Extreme and E9S, and we'll see if we get further with Llama Todd. So I'll be co-streaming that over on our Twitch page, and we are raising money for the fight against cancer. So come hang out.
Absolutely. Larry, what do you want to see for the Summoner? You can bake in Scholar changes as well. But this is the time for an expansion. Last time we got full-on Machinist rework, which I think really kind of paved the way. People were really excited about it. I still enjoy it coming off of the media tour and even to this day. But you and I are, you switch in and out, I switch in and out a little bit. But Summoner has been something that I've been taking since 2.0. And I haven't played it much this whole expansion based off his changes. Yoshi P has recently had an interview with Mr. Happy, and it talked about Eggy Glamours and the potential for the Summoner kind of hitting their theoretical max and them having to reconsider certain things about it. So obviously pure speculation from people who do not know what Yoshi P is doing or the team's doing to Summoner. But Larry, what would you like to see with the Summoner in Endwalker?
Maybe I do know what Yoshi P is doing. I might have a phone in my office that's directly tied to Yoshi P, so I might actually know.
Brian has a when you donate bits on our stream, there's different like GIFs that play, and there's one that Brian says, "Hey, for you supporting our channel, I'm going to give you Male Vieira," and that means yeah. Who knew it was that easy?
Who knew? You guys donated enough, and wish granted. What's the next thing? What next wish of this genie grant?
I would have said Eggy Glamours, but now I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
I would have been like, put in the good word for the Eggy Glamours. I mean, really, I'm not surprised whatsoever that there's going to be another summoner overhaul, because, you know, people ask me all the time. They're like, Larry, how do you manage to main the same job for, what is it, 8 years now since our own born or whatever it is, like 2 years per expansion? How are you still maining summoner that whole time? And I go, well, it's easy. Every expansion is just a brand new job anyway, so I get something new every time. So yeah, I'm not surprised whatsoever that there's going to be another summoner rework. I was expecting it. But yeah, I mean, what I wanted initially was just getting rid of Eggies altogether and just moving more over to how the demi summon system works. Because I feel like the demi summons are a little bit different than how the other jobs have like their summons. You know, for instance, like Dark Knight with Frey, Machinist with their mech. Like both of those are kind of just push the button and they get summoned and you set it and forget it. Whereas Summoner, the demi summon comes out and your abilities get augmented. You doing things will affect the demi summon attacking. You can give the demi summon commands. You know, like it's a little bit different, and so they end up working just way better and they look way cooler than what the Eggies look like, right? Yes. So right off the bat, I was like, I just want full on just demi summons and that's it, right? Yeah. So after that interview with Mr. Happy and him saying, well, we put the Eggy Glamours on hold, right, is kind of like, oh, are you actually doing that then? Because I had asked him this when we were at the media tour, when they revealed that Summoner was going to have the Phoenix demi summon, right? So my question was like, okay, so now that we have Phoenix and we have 2 demi summons now, is this the reason why we haven't had Eggy Glamours? Like, is this the reason? Are we moving more towards having demi summons now instead? And his response immediately, he was just like, first of all, Eggy Glamours have nothing to do with demi summons. And I was like, oh, I made Yoshi P angry. But it ended up being like something like that probably. So, I mean, what I would like is maybe kind of something similar to what Reaper is doing, like for the old Eggy attacks. Like if you were to do, for instance, like the Garuda AoE, like you would still have that button, but a Garuda would just pop up behind you, do the cast, and then go away. Or something like that. Like it just becomes baked into your animations instead of always having an Eggy out instead. So I feel like that would work out better because then you don't got to worry about wonky pet AI as much. And I think that would kind of just completely solve that issue. There's gonna be wonky pet AI with demi summons anyways, though. So it's just baked into the job.
Maybe like, you know, obviously. Just fan theory here, and we, you know, I was hoping that we would see something about maybe like the limited job Beastmaster, and when it comes down to, let's say we ever do get something like that, or even a Puppet Master, in my mind, the back end, the code behind is them reworking pets, right? Because if you know, like, hey, we had to create like a real full-on pet system if we ever introduce either of those two, even in their limited form, that it could prove to be beneficial throughout the core game. Because Yoshi P, when we talked to him, he said, you know, they rewrote the whole Chocobo companion system from the ground up, and that rolled out in a patch, and it wasn't even a patch note. Like they don't sit here and say, hey, like, but
4.4.
Yeah, and nobody, like, you know, from the 0.3 to 0.4 was like, oh yeah, like I can tell, like no, like, but they had to, because they had to replace some of that core design so they could get to where they want to go. And that's you know, you and me, both programmers, we live in that world. Rework is not the most exciting work, and if you know, it sucks, but sometimes it just has to happen. You know, like well, knowing what we know 10 years later, oh man, like we really need to kind of rethink how this system over here is actually designed. But beyond that aspect, like I agree with you. Like the demi summons are cool. And where you have it's gotten to the point where the fact that they don't even take damage, Titan doesn't even tank anymore. And it's like he can't tank for you. That's one of the things I enjoyed about playing it just solo. It's like having my Chocobo, have my Titan, and I'm going out.
Like we were a whole party.
I was a whole team, like out in the open world. I was like Summoner, one man wrecking squad. But what I want to see is I've debated on this, and I think if you can actually, in my mind, keep Carbuncle and just let the Summoner have the Carbuncle pet, and the Carbunky does what they want. They do their thing, and then they evolve into that Deme summon, just like you said, and we're just like with Ifrit, Garuda, or whoever you choose, because I still would love to see more choice. We've gotten so many primals. It'd be great to have them all in that Demi form. And then essentially, like with Phoenix, it actually alters your skills. Like, okay, you're Garuda now. Like, okay, yeah, Garuda's out, and she's out for your AOE rotation or whatever. And now your skills are all wind based. I don't know, but exactly that, because one of the things that I loved about when Phoenix comes out, Phoenix actually changes your skills. Bahamut doesn't. And I was like, oh yeah, I think what if your summon impacted your summoner? And I think that would be something that I would really love to kind of play around with. And then if they do, like, let's say there's still like 3 or 4, because at some point you can't just sit here and say, now you have 3 Demi summons plus your
you can't. Yeah, right. They got to change how it works somehow. Like maybe like interim demi summons or something. Like something has to change in that way. But yeah, like for sure, like I could almost guarantee that we're gonna get something like that with Bahamut, where it's gonna alter your because that's such an easy thing to do that isn't gonna change your kit all that much. Yeah. Like it's just gonna like new skills that you'll unlock while you have Bahamut out, right? Like your Ruin will become Mega Flare or something, right? So something like that, and that's just like. It doesn't change your rotation at all, right? I mean, actually, the Phoenix one does a little bit, but it doesn't. It doesn't substantially change your rotation, and it just adds so much flavor, and it just makes you feel cool because that's what they've said. They were like, we want every job to have the part that makes you feel cool, just like Paladin wings, like the wings behind the Paladin. They want every job to have something like that. And I think Summoner has that with both Bahamut and Phoenix, right? Like that's the part that I love that makes me feel cool while I'm playing Summoner. So just make it even cooler, right? And then, yeah, I like incorporating more summons, like some kind of like they could do choice in the way of just cosmetic. And that's really the only way that they realistically could do it. Because if there's choice and they actually are functionally different, there isn't really a choice. There's one that's correct. Right. So, and I mean, yeah, I am a little sad about losing Titan overall, like as like a tanking pet. I didn't really use him much really. And ever since after Heavensward, because when Stormblood came out, I mean, yeah, you still had Titan and Titan could still tank, but realistically you couldn't because he would become Bahamut. So he would just go away. So we actually have lost Titan tanking ability since Heavensward. So that's been gone for a long time actually. Right. But it did allow you to do like those solo things of like going into like extreme primals and being able to like you could like solo Garuda extreme back in Heavensward with Summoner. So it let you do cool stuff. But
what I envy about Summoner as a non-summoner is the cosmetics of it, like that ability, the idea that you could swap in other summons. Because this game doesn't really have like upgraded spells. Like as a warrior main, like I don't have a way to like change the color of my fell cleave and make it some like awesome thing. Like there's so much personality available through that. Like, oh, well, we'll just make the summon do the same thing, but be a different summon. And then the question becomes, how do you unlock that? And it's like, oh, well, you unlock that by beating extreme solo 10 times. Like you could have this almost like masked carnival, like let's let summoners go dive down their own progression. And I can just tell you, like, that's the sort of thing where as a warrior main, I would go, well, that seems unfair. Like when you were saying Reaper was so cool, it's like that would be the sort of thing where then Summoner would be like, well, screw you. Like, we'll be over here with just our one version of abilities.
Exactly, which is what the Eggy Glamour system initially was going to be like. I thought was it'll have all these Eggy Glamours that you can unlock by doing content. And I think they actually said that almost verbatim was it would be stuff that you could unlock. Right. And I was like, that would be so cool and almost so unfair to every other job because you have customization in the way your abilities look. Right. So I don't know. Time will tell what that. But that's also what I am hoping is that they just completely get rid of Eggies and that they go more into the cosmetic way of doing your skills and altering your skills. Like, right, you go into a Garuda stance and now you have all wind-based attacks, right? Instead of just Ruin, right?
That would avoid skill bloat. right? Because then each expansion you
can
rotate
add more
in different primals,
Boom.
and you don't actually increase the number of abilities on the bar.
Exactly.
And you don't take it, and you don't. So then you don't have to prune, because the problem with pruning is it makes all the new players. It just makes like the 1 to 50 grind worse and worse. If like if you take something, if you take like a level 40 ability away to give us a level 95 ability, then like the level 95 players like, what are you complaining about? Like, it's fine. And then like somebody new to the game is like, I have one button left on the bar. Like I have one button until level 50 because you guys kept taking them away.
Exactly. Which the Phoenix one did it so well, because it actually, not only does it augment your abilities, you change what you do, albeit it's one button extra, but you change what you do. Right? You're like, you go into a Phoenix mode and you feel different while you're in Phoenix because you have to do 1 2 1 2, right? It's just doing 1 2 1 2, but it feels different. So that's what I want it to be. You go into a demi summon and you feel different depending which demi summon you're in. That would be perfect. And just I never would leave Summoner anyway, but I would super never leave it. I would have even more reason to never play anything else if it was like that.
I mean, Enochian drastically changes Black Mage.
Yes.
So like you can just add one that like so if they had added one ability, hopefully it's something like that where it's like that changes literally everything.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so hopefully we're not adding 2, 3, 4 buttons to the bar to some of these jobs. We'll have to see how all the job changes shake out, but hard changes are actually like really hard on people that are late to the game. When you're like, well, I want to learn the job as I go. It's like, oh, what are you playing? Well, I'm playing like Bard, and so I'm level 50 right now, and I'm really trying to learn. Well, that's going to change. Oh, well, I was thinking about playing Black Mage. Well, that's going to change.
That's
so,
super change.
Like, yeah.
The whole
just
way.
Ignore it. Like, if you're somebody who has trouble getting old information out of your head to learn new information, maybe don't read your tooltips. Like, this is just going to confuse you later. Because it does. Some of these jobs change that much, as opposed to some jobs feel very like it's just an iteration on where I was.
The overall concept would stay the same, but sometimes even the concept changes. But like for a Black Mage, like your overall concept is the same. You want to fire phase for damage, ice to go back up, right? It's like, okay, I'll follow that. And then, but it changes so much that
how do I do that? Totally differently.
How do you do it? Exactly.
Totally differently.
I think outside of like Summoner, though, like one of the things I want to see, I'd love to see them bring back Burst for Black Mages. It's a 1.0 ancient magic spell. So they took that away. It's lightning based. And essentially it was if you have Flare for fire, Freeze for ice, Burst was the thunder based ancient magic, and they've introduced all this other like black magic.
And I'm like, spell called Burst. Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're asking me, like, what's the next wish that I would like to grant? I'd like to, if you guys donate enough bits, I will make sure they fix the naming, the spell naming stuff here in this game. Like,
Brian can give us Fyraga.
Here's Fyraga. Well, especially in terms of like single target versus AoE, it drives me nuts because there is no consistency in spell naming. It's like if you just base it off of Black Mage to start. All right, Fire 1, single target. Fire 2, AoE. Fire 3, single target. Fire 4, single target. Yeah. Like, okay, all right. And then it's like, okay, Blizzard 1, single target. Blizzard 2, multi-target. It's like, okay, even.
And then Thunder, don't even get started on Thunder at all.
And it's like, you son of a gun. And it's like, I'd love to see them just sitting here. And they have like, and I've said this, and people are like, but in the lore, in the library, it says they have this naming thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, go and say y'all got it wrong. Like, just sit here. Like, we had a new convenience of the council and said, if it's single target, you can have it numbered. If it's multi-target, add it.
No, but the male seahorses do have the babies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Let's go.
Change your mind.
It also makes it difficult for new people too, because they get Fire 1. They're like, okay, this is my spam spell. Fire 2, oh, that's my new spam spell. Fire 3, that's my new spam spell. Don't do that. Right?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Anyway, like, so yeah, I'd love to see them kind of revisit that. And I think that will be another question I have for Yoshi. Can you please just read the spells?
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. I don't think they're gonna do that.
Never. No, but it'll be my new Twitter campaign after we get it finally on Xbox in 2025. It's like, yes, okay.
Probably not gonna have that either.
Not in 2025. No. If it comes to GeForce Now, I'll be completely happy. I'll be really satisfied if they bring it to that. But one day at a time. All right. I think we've beaten the summer into the ground enough in this case. Let's shift to our third and final topic: building a game, impact on gaming expectations. Larry, you've made it public that you've been working on this game behind the scenes. I cannot wish you enough luck. I'm rooting for you as a fellow programmer myself. But Chris, before we dive into this topic, being that this is the highlight, what do you have coming up? We got a little charity event coming up this Saturday. Why don't you tell people about it?
So this Saturday at 8 p.m. CST, the Fey Temperance Discord and others have been organizing charity events where veteran players drag players that don't know what they're doing through clears as a form of raising money for charity. Kind of like a walkathon is the closest parallel I've seen, where people agree to walk and people pledge hey, if they walk this far, I'll donate money. And so Llama Todd said, hey, I need somebody that doesn't know what they're doing to drag through Diamond Extreme and some Savage. And that's this guy.
All right. When's that going down?
Saturday, 8 p.m. CST, 9 p.m. Llama Todd time.
Llama Todd time.
Those East Coasters.
And it's I think it's benefiting Stand Up to Cancer as the charity. So guys, be sure to tune in, help out, cheer Chris on. Maybe we'll get some more clears. Chris has actually been doing some minimum eye level challenges on tank, so he's becoming a raiders guys. So it'll be interesting to see how that.
I'm not getting clears, but yes, we are attempting minimum item.
That's rating.
That's rating. Yeah. Hey, we made 3% prog, baby.
People came in, they're like, so what do you get for doing this on a minimum level without echo? Nothing. So even if you do succeed, nothing. There's no value here. We're just doing it to do it.
Mm-hmm. Larry,
having a good time.
Larry, one of the things that obviously when we see within gaming culture is obviously the friction between development expectations and gamers' expectations. And you're stepping into the world of game development. I'm curious, has it changed your viewpoint of both the 14 development team, but as well as just, when somebody says that's going to be easy, do you have any kind of immediate going, how do you feel?
Right. I mean, before I started doing this, I guess I always had that kind of viewpoint of, I'm sure it's not as easy as you think it is, right? Because before I started working on game stuff, I also was programming before that, and before that, I just kind of knowing computers and stuff, right? So I always just had that inclination, and I'm sure a lot of people do too, is just you think you're you can just, add an eggy glamour. You can just change the way it looks. But no, it's not that simple, right? So I always felt that way. But after actually working on a game that I'm doing right now, I'm building it in the Unity engine. It's even substantially more work than even that. And I'm just by myself. I control everything. I can just say, I want to do this. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Right. It's not the same thing on a team where you have many, many dozens and dozens of people all in each completely different setting, and all different teams, and they all have to communicate with each other about what they're going to do. One thing that you're working on can affect somebody else's work completely, and that can completely throw away something that they just spent months on because you changed something, right? So it's even more than what you think it is, really. So, a lot of the time when I see those kinds of requests now, it really just gets to you of oh man, you think this thing that you can add is so simple, but it's really not.
I think for me, when I've built a few because a single play, just single me only team, but I've worked on big teams with developers and things like that. When it comes down to gaming, that has given me an appreciation and the realization that I don't think games really should exist. There is some miracle of human nature that brings them about, because working on teams, just trying to make a change, the committees and the people, the stakeholders that are involved in the conversations, to the point where it's how do people make what we're watching right now? The fact, just it is a sheer function of will, driven usually by one, if not a handful of key people who will this into existence through great pain. And just why do you want to have a guy in a purple cloth? How many meetings involved to go through the staging of what this is going to entail? And the fact that still gets done, and just 300, I think I don't know the current size of the 14 development team, but I have to bet that it's not you're talking about 5 people get into a room. It's okay, we've got squads of people. And then you think of other
300 employees when Yoshi P took over. That's the number he referenced in his in the closing statements.
Yeah, so it's hundreds to some hundreds of something, right?
Hundreds of something. That's why I think whenever
and Genshin Impact and Fortnite, when you look at their revenue and you look at Final Fantasy XIV revenue, what kind of company makes a game like this? Like, this is so much work and can fail so hard. And it's like, yeah, but these other teams, they put it out on the phone and they made like way more money in way less time.
Yeah.
Well, we should just do that. That seems way better.
See, then passion comes into play, right? Yeah, like you could just be like, oh, I'll just make a mobile game that's, you pay to win, and I'll just make a mobile game that has a whole bunch of gacha and make infinite money, right? I'll just print money. But maybe your passion is a storytelling game, and so that's what ends up happening. I mean, getting into game development is like the very first beginning of you getting into it. You're like, game development's fun. Making a game is super fun. And then everything else after that is, how does any video game ever get made ever? Like, how does anybody finish one of these things? It's ridiculous. You have to, like, when you're making your own, like, especially when you're by yourself, but even as a team, I'm sure this is the case. You have an idea of of everything, all these features that you want to do, right? Like, say, I want there to be 10 levels. I want a boss in each one. I want skill branching trees. I want blah, 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 right? I want all these things. Yeah, take that idea and cut it to like 25% of that, and then maybe you can finish, right? You got to cut out like so much of what your vision actually is to be able to even finish the game whatsoever. So I'm sure that's even the case with a team as well, because it just scales from there.
Do you feel that's the same with content creation? Like that, where you started when you first wanted to upload a video and where you are now, that there's such a big delta?
With content creation, I don't think it's the same, because you could just make more videos.
You just make more?
Yeah, I think you could just make.
I'm just wondering
more.
how you compare those scales. Like, is that?
Yeah,
you've clearly, you're having success in both, and so those are two things people kind of know you for.
Right. I mean, yeah, I like with videos, it's kind of the opposite. Like, I could just work more and get more videos done. With a game, I could work more and maybe not get it done. Right.
So depressing.
Yeah,
that's so depressing. That's what I get concerned about when these games get developed and we see like Halo Infinite, where we just see like they spent $500 million and then the launch date came and they're like, yeah, we're going to need more time.
Yeah.
Like, how much more time? We don't know.
Like 10 years.
Director's got to leave. I don't know. And you have to wonder, like, when it gets to a certain length, have they are we really always just looking at the last 2 to 3 years? And if the game runs longer than that, that's just representative of how much was deleted. Like, is there really things still in the game that have been there the whole 10 years? Like, how efficient is it when we see these games that get worked on for a decade or a decade and a half?
I feel like a lot of those do run into a lot of problems. Like, take 15, for example. Like, they gutted it and remade it a bunch of times, right? So I'm sure that happens a lot. But companies over time would get more and more efficient of guessing this stuff, right? Like, you got to guesstimate how much time something is going to take, and you have to guesstimate like what you can even realistically allow yourself to do. For instance, with 14, they were going to have 6 city states in 2.0.
Yeah,
right.
I know.
Take your idea. This is your idea. Cut it in half. Just take half of it out, and then you can maybe finish it, right? And that's what they had to do. They were under a time constraint. They could not make 6 city states, right? It's the same thing.
It took them another decade to get all 6 in.
Yeah,
because we're getting into 6th one finally in this, and it's like, oh man, how insane would that have been if that had launched with that?
Yeah, it had to change the story too. Right, because like, wasn't one of them was going to be Charlene, another one was going to be
new Charlene, but it's way older now.
Yeah, it's like 10 years old.
10 years old. It's not new. It's a whole new Charlene.
It's used up Charlene.
Yeah. What was another one? Like, was Kugane going to be one?
Alamingo.
Alamingo was going to be one. That would have been a completely different story.
Ishgard and Charlene. So you think of the 3 that we have.
Ishgard, we had to build it. They couldn't even do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the 6. So Doma and Kugane and the Crystarium and all this other stuff is just like, that's just fluff. Right. That wasn't even part of the original vision. And yeah, 6 starting cities, and then essentially like the fact that like Charlene has been so mentioned, so influential, people keep coming from that city, and it's always like, all right, we ever gonna go there? Turns out we are now. And that's really exciting to see. I think if nothing else, like when you talk about the development side of it, is that even Microsoft misses. Like every study like that they've done, it's like what was originally thought was the quote, and then what it ends up being. Like even teams that have like crazy amounts of money, resources, and experience, it's like, yeah. Well, no, we thought it was going to be this. Turns out we were way off. Like, okay, that took a left turn somewhere down the line. In that regard,
too. Bugs, forget about it. Like that's just bugs are like an extra like unknown time sink, right? And now when I encounter bugs that I'm working on, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave that for now. It's fine. If somebody finds that, it's okay. Cyberpunk came out and that had bugs, and that was a AAA game. Yeah. So my game can have bugs. That's fine.
Elder Scrolls has bugs. Yeah. Guys, bugs make great games. Like people love bugs, right? You love your bugs, especially if it like makes you really powerful. Like this bug makes me equip 4 weapons. I love that
feature.
It's a feature.
I would like to actually have like some like bugs that are purposely left in there that are just like fun. Like you discover this bug and it just makes your head like 5 times big, right? Like that kind of thing. A fun little thing to discover.
Yeah. Oh, hands down, dude. Like I think I can definitely appreciate that in and of itself. I wish you luck on your game. I'm looking forward to when it gets. It will be a milestone. It honestly inspires me. If I didn't have so many hands in the fire, I'd be like, all right.
It's a lot more work.
I can't imagine.
It's a lot more work.
I've never picked a career where I can't just go, well, if I just do more of it, it'll be more than I started with. Like I've never picked a career where it's like, all right, let me pick something where I can also walk backward when I get up in the morning. Like I could end today further from my goal than yesterday.
Oh, dude, that happens.
That is
every
not.
day.
I've tried a number of industries. Every single one of them, forward progress is a guarantee. It doesn't have to be better progress, but it's forward progress.
Well, maybe you could think of it as forward progress in that you learn something. But in the actual like of getting the thing done, no, it was backwards progress.
Yeah, we had to delete those classes, and now we are here and we're rethinking this.
Thank you, devs. Thank you, devs, for doing something I don't want to do. I don't envy your job. I don't envy GMs or community teams. That's a hard job. We are more than willing to tell them when they're wrong, and when they're right, we never say anything. That's like being in Lost Luggage. Your best day is when nobody talks to you. Like that sounds hard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that has brought us to the end of our show for this time. Time flies with Larry. Thank you so much for jumping in here with us on a fun Wednesday. I was just like, man, you said you were free. I was like, all right, we got to talk. We got to talk about Endwalker. We got to talk about Summoner. And then keep us up to date as always on your game progress. Where can people find you? What do you got coming up that you want to share? Floor is yours.
Well, I'm Larry Zoran everything on YouTube and Twitter. That's mostly where I'm active, so you could find me there. I don't like setting dates and disappointing, but I'm trying to get a trailer out in the next 2 months, so that's what I'm aiming for.
November 19th.
Yeah. Hey, I could aim for that. I feel comfortable with that. Yeah. But sooner
if you're playing Endwalker, he's got a trailer out there.
Yeah, I'm working on that. So maybe there will be one. That's what I'm working on behind the scenes. So thank you guys so much for having me. It's always a blast.
Dude, thank you. Chris, what do we got coming up? What do you floor is yours, man?
We're streaming 5 days a week, and this week we got charity stream on Saturday. So that's going to be day 11 in a row because FanFest made the schedule go crazy. And I post to gaming kinda, and work to games being consistent. And Brian's, will know that they've decided to have another kid when he spins up yet another channel. So I think he's at 1 per child.
Oh yeah, we'll see. You never know. They're just working on it. I'm gonna get Maddie starting helping me out, like doing some farming in games. Like, hey, I need to get some gil, so start farming, John. You want to play some video games with that?
I started a channel to talk about kind of my thoughts about like games versus politics. Dude, huge congratulations, boy, girl.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good times. Speaking of which, I do have a new channel. It's called Prime University.
And it's a girl.
Elizabeth was born, yes. So we have Prime University. We also have a parent's guide for games. So that's where you can kind of find me. I'm working on getting both of those to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys are ever watching live, you can use the command University or the command Brian to find the different content and channels that I'm working on. So no joke, more content, more channels. In fact, actually, I have been thinking of a new channel that I won't ever talk about because it has nothing to do with video games. But I'm looking forward to kind of spinning it up. It is not tied to having another child. Where right now we're still.
It's tied to how to come up with a name for starting a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Channel about starting channels.
Channels about starting channels as a subsection there. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're here with us live on Ginger Gamer Derfshire, Ginger Gaming Radio, be sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button. That's what we do here. That's the kind of content you'll find. But for Work to Game, for Ginger Gaming Radio, my name is Brian. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and we hope to see you on our next one. But until then, take care.
That was a beautiful outro. Hope I didn't ruin it by saying
Oh, you
that.
did not at all.
Okay.
No. A compliment?
Leave that in there.
That outro was garbage. Your hot go. And just delete from the edit, and then hopefully no one finds it. Like,
just you got to be thankful people don't stay to the end, huh?
Yeah.
Just drank.
Solidly backhanded.
He just like, it's like, well,
holy crap.
I guess I'll go spin up another channel.
Like one of those, like, I think it's great that you can wear that in public, like type compliments.
Oh man. I'm also glad I remembered not to curse because I almost did quoting Mary earlier because he cursed, and then I was like, oh F. Yeah. I censored myself.
Pro podcaster right there, yeah. All right.
Ryan, are you taking over stream?
I am taking over stream. Give me a second because I got to
close this
down. I was debating on diving into more World v World for Guild Wars, but I'm just going to play that tonight. I'm just going to spend some time in that tonight. And so what I'm going to be doing is working on Relic and also farming up those tomes. So if you guys want to hang out with me, I'll be playing 14 and open up the Party Finder. So we're going to be grinding the regular tomes, and I'll also be getting those clusters because I just, so we'll be doing Rabinasti and we'll be doing Portiarchy.
Cool. Well, I'll hang out till you are ready to go live. I'll let you say bye to Larry. Thank you, Larry, for all your time.
Yeah,
We're always excited to see you. I get notified anytime you have a video go live. And
you got the bell. Thank you.
This should be more often.
Oh yeah, that bell, man. Should be. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hit end on the broadcast for GGR. Technically, you will still see us if you're on Twitch, so we'll be transitioning and doing some stuff there.